As a new section of DAP, are you seeing that DAP is facing a identity crisis?
As far as our direction is concerned, a party for all. So on that score, I do not think that we are facing any so-called identity crisis.
But the Malay community sees the DAP as a Chinese party. The support level for the Malay communities has always been very low.
In terms of approaches, in terms of image rebuilding and so forth, that is definitely a long-term process. I think that it's not an easy task.
They were very disappointed with the performance of PH during the 22 months of rule. Do you think there was an overpromise?
We were thrown out by some betrayals and some traitors within Pakatan Harapan.
Any government that comes to power always take the Indian community for granted. Whatever promises were made were not fulfilled.
But as far as Pakatan Harapan, as far as DAP is concerned, we never take the Indians for granted.
Whatever has been delivered during that PH rule was not something extra. It was a continuation of what BN was doing.
Definitely, we face a lot of challenges from within in terms of fulfilling our manifestos and fulfilling our promises. When it comes to Red IC problem, the major ministry which was involved in this issue was the Home Ministry. It was very disappointed that we did not get full cooperation from the then Home Minister, who was Muhyiddin.
There was a cabinet committee on Indian issues was formed by Dato Sri Najib Tun Razak. But when PH came to power, that was dismantled.
No, it's not a question of dismantle. I think it's not the right word to use to say it was dismantled. There are enough committees being set up in this country. There's so many committees being set up in the past.
Happy to meet you, YB, and we congratulate you for being selected as new section of DAP.
Thank you.
As a new section of DAP, are you seeing that DAP is facing a identity crisis? Because we can see some leaders in DAP, they want the party to take up a moderate path where the party can be more appealing towards the Malays. And there are also leaders, they want to be very aggressive, especially towards the issues pertaining to rights of the non-Malays.
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. To your question, I do not think that we are facing any crisis or any identity crisis. Of course, there are different approaches among the leaders. Some who wants to be more aggressive, some who wants to be more moderate. So I think it's a question of approach of how to attract support from our base, from our supporters. But I think by and large, the DAP continues to be a party to champion multiracial. We are a multiracial party. We are not just a party for one particular race. I think, of course, we do not deny that the DAP has gotten our support mainly from the non-Malay community, in particularly the Chinese and the Indian community. But we are a party for all Malaysians. Therefore, the direction of the party must be a national party, a party for all Malaysians, and that we have to speak up for all Malaysians, and we are a party aspire to be a party for all. So therefore, definitely in terms of our approach to reach out to the various communities, there will be some different in approach among our leaders, which is I think quite normal in any party. But as far as our direction is concerned, a party for all. So on that score, I do not think that we are facing any so-called identity crisis. So DAP will continue to be ourselves.
But the Malay community sees the DAP as a Chinese party, and you would have seen that the support level for the Malay communities has always been very low.
Yep.
So in order to gain the support of the Malays, do you think there should be some sort of shift in terms of your approach?
Well, I think the Malay support has always been challenging for the DAP. Not now. I mean, since many years ago, we have been painted as a party of anti-Malay, anti-Islam, and so forth, since the 70s, 80s, and so forth. But I mean, moving forward, definitely DAP is not moving alone. We are in a coalition. Therefore, I think in order to gain the support of all communities, we must have the support of a coalition partners. That's why we are in a coalition in Pakatan Harapan. In terms of approaches, in terms of image rebuilding and so forth, that is definitely a long-term process. I think that it's not an easy task, but we are trying. We are trying to reach out. We are trying to let the Malay community to understand the DAP more. But at the same time, I think we are also defending or maintaining our role as a party that speak up for all. Including the minority community, including the Chinese and Indian community. I think nothing to stop us from continue to pursue a Malaysia that is fair to all communities in terms of good governance, in terms of transparency, in terms of freedom and also justice. That is something that make up the party as our core values. So even though that we are trying to reach out to more supporters, but I think as far as our own supporters are concerned, definitely that is important to us.
But during the recent state elections, we can see even your base supporters have shifted to a certain extent, or they have become fence-sitters. And on the other side, you really don't have the support of the Malays. So do you find it's very difficult to balance this?
Well, that is a challenge in Malaysian politics. Of course, in the recent Malacca and Johor state election, we are facing an uphill battle. Even, as you said, even some of our supporters did not come out to vote, did not vote for us. I would not think that it is a shift in terms of support, or rather they were disappointed and they did not turn up. That is the biggest challenge for the DAP and Pakatan Harapan in facing the next general election. As far as the supporters who supported us in 2018, I think they are still anti-Barisan Nasional. If you look at the votes garnered by BN, they did not gain any additional votes. They did not gain any additional supporters, be it in Malacca or in Johor. Even in their strongest turf in Johor, they did not even get more than 50% of the support. So we can conclude that the supporters or the voters who supported Pakatan Harapan in 2018, they did not go back to BN. They did not shift their support to BN. But because of their disappointment on the political development in the past 2 years, most of them did not turn up to vote. They give up on the election. I think our main challenges and main question is how to win back the confidence of this group of voters, to convince them and to inspire them that giving up is not an option, that they have to come out to support Pakatan Harapan in order for us to move forward and bring real change to the country.
If you see the past two election results, especially the state election, Malacca and Johor, there is a shift on Indian votes. Do you think there was an overpromise? Because a lot of people feel that whatever has been delivered during that PH rule was not something extra. It was a continuation of what BN was doing. The 100 million allocation to Mitra or Sadiq, and the 50 million allocation for Tamil schools are actually a continuation of BN's policy. And even there was a promise by PH that they will resolve the red IC issues of Indians within 100 days when you're in power. But that didn't materialize.
Okay, first of all, we were only given 22 months, not the entire 60 months. So the term and the mandate that was supposed to be given to the Pakatan Harapan government was for 5 years, in order for us to prove ourselves within the 5 years term. But we were denied that. We were thrown out by some betrayals and some traitors within Pakatan Harapan. Therefore, we only had 22 months in government. And during that 22 months in government, definitely we faced a lot of challenges from within in terms of fulfilling our manifestos and fulfilling our promises. But what we have done is that at least those which were easy to achieve, like the continuation of some of the policies which you mentioned, 100 million for Mitra, 50 million for Tamil schools, that has been maintained. In other words, there were no reduction of any of whatever they got during the PN government. So they were being maintained in that sense. But
the
those
Indian
things,
community expected more.
I know, fully understand.
Because
Just
that was
like
the promise given.
just like the Chinese community, just like the other communities who expected more from Pakatan Harapan. As I said, we were trying to achieve more during the 5 years period, but we did not able to do so because of we being denied in terms of our time in government, in terms of the mandate in government. So the 22 months, of course, was very challenging in terms of pushing certain issues. For example, the Red IC issue. The Red IC issues, to be fair to the Indian leaders in Pakatan Harapan, they were trying very hard. Kula, Gobin were trying very hard within the cabinet. But as you know, that certain issues, it is cut across many ministries. When you come to Red IC problem, the major ministry which was involved in this issue was the Home Ministry. And I think it was very disappointed that we did not get full cooperation from the then Home Minister, who was Muhyiddin. So Muhyiddin did not really give full commitment in terms of solving the issues that the Red IC is concerned. I think, as you can see, the DAP had actually attempted to solve these issues, to push it very hard. In fact, many of our leaders, including the then Sekjen, Lim Kitsang, who was the finance minister, personally met up with Muhyiddin, and Kula definitely met up with Muhyiddin, together with many of our MPs, to impress upon him that this issue is very important for the Indian community. And the stateless child Red IC issue, those issues are very fundamental, and it has not been solved for many years. It is a long-standing issue which need a special attention. You need a special task force to handle all those issues. We met them. We met, I mean, the DAP leaders met Muhyiddin. We tried our best to raise it up in cabinet and so on. But, I mean, of course, the lead ministry on this is the Home Ministry, and he was the Home Minister. So there are only certain things that we can do, but there are limitations to it. I'm not saying that we justified that our failure to address those issues. But what I'm trying to say that we did try. We did our best to solve those issues, but it was not forthcoming, given that the 22 months were too short in terms of achieving the object or the results of it. And definitely 100 days would not be able to solve a long-standing issue such as the Red IC problem.
What was the answer given by Muhyiddin at that point of time?
Well, I think Muhyiddin just said that these are long process. Giving citizenship is a major issue. It is not a straightforward. It has to be case by case basis and so on. So when you handle it through a conventional way, or through the way that they are used to, which is handled case by case, that you would take years.
But I remember
to solve it.
Why Tun Mahathir gave a statement that those above 60 years old will be automatically given the blue IC.
That's a problem. I think some of the things that we have been able to get a decision, even from the Prime Minister, was not followed up by the respective minister. In this case, the Home Minister. So, I mean, as you said, if the Prime Minister has given that assurance or that statement, it is a policy statement which was supposed to be followed up by a solution, a systematic solution by the respective minister, in this case, the Home Minister. But it was not forthcoming. I mean, at the time, Muhyiddin was basically not really focusing on his job as a Home Minister. So, of course, to be fair to him, he was sick for a few months. He was out of the picture for many months, including not attending cabinet meetings because he was receiving his treatment for his cancer. But that, I think, is not as an excuse to not be focusing on those issues. As I said, I'm not trying to shift the blame, but what happened was, of course, we were trying very hard. We were hoping that we can achieve something, in particularly issues such as a stateless child and also Red IC, but we were not able to.
Actually, these are the things actually make the Indians to feel that any government that comes to power always take the Indian community for granted. Whatever promises were made were not fulfilled, and statistics shows that the equity level of the Indians is the lowest, house ownership they are the lowest, graduate employment they are the lowest, and in terms of social ills they are the highest, in terms of health issues they are the highest. So there is a question whether the non-Indian leaders in PH, whether they are really aware of the depth of the Indian issues.
Well, I think generally, I mean, as far as politicians is concerned, I'm sure they will be aware of the problems faced by the Indian community. But the question is whether they appreciate enough in terms of the depth of the problem, as you said, as you mentioned. I think definitely people are aware of the problems facing the Indian in terms of socio-economic challenges and issues. But whether or not they have enough passion to address those issues, that is another issue. Definitely, I think for politicians generally, the support, of course, will have an impact on them, whether or not they will give attention to those issues. But as far as Pakatan Harapan, as far as DAP is concerned, we never take the Indians for granted. We know that in many of our constituencies, the Indian make up a large numbers of our voters. Definitely, our very survival and our very existence in Parliament depended not only the Chinese voters, but also the Indian voters. Therefore, in terms of the Indian issues, the DAP has always been giving a lot of attention to. As you said, I think the depth of the socio-economic issues are alarming among the Indian community. And this is something that not only the DAP, but I think Pakatan Harapan as a whole, and any future government that will come into picture must give attention to this socio-economic problem, not just from looking at it from a racial perspective, but from a class perspective, from an overall socio-economic perspective, that the bottom 40%, the bottom 50% among the Malays, among the Indians must be uplifted in order for us to achieve a more balanced society. I think that is something that we have to really give attention to.
But even in DAP, we don't see the non-Indian leaders voicing out the Indian issues. Only is being voiced out by Kula, Prof. Ramasamy and so on. So even in DAP, the understanding of the Indian issues is not really sufficient.
Well, today I'm speaking to you.
Yeah, that's why
as a non-Indian leader in the DAP, I'm speaking to you. I'm coming to a Tamil media organization to accept this interview and to discuss those issues, to show that it's not only the Indian leaders who care about the Indian problems. I mean, as far as the Indian community issue is concerned, I look at it as a Malaysian problem.
Yeah.
It's not just an Indian community problem. And
but it's just like per se, everyone says that every issue must be seen as a Malaysian issue. But when it comes to reality, certain issues are not being brought out by others.
I understand that. I understand what you're trying to say. But as I mentioned, I think we have to look at those issues not just from a racial perspective, not just an issue concerning the Indian community. That's why I'm trying to convince you, trying to convince that we have to look at it. I mean, not just among the Indian community. Therefore, the other leaders whose constituency constitute many Indian supporters or many Indian voters must also look at it as their responsibility. For example, I'm the MP for Seremban, and Seremban have about 15% Indian community. And those are the issues concerning the Indian community and concerning my voters, who is my responsibility. So that's why I'm trying to say that we should not be looking at those issues just as a community issue, just a communal issue, but an issue that must be addressed by all members of parliament. And in the DAP, there are many MPs whose constituency have a large number of Indian community, and they have to take up those issues, they have to understand those issues and addressing those issues, be it in parliament, be it in policy formulation, and be it in the program in the constituency. As I mentioned, the issue about the Indian community, in particularly in terms of funding, in terms of allocation for Tamil schools, for Mitra, for socio-economic development, we should not just be focusing on fighting for more allocation, but also fighting for more integrity in terms of managing those resources. I think the key issue about the allocation for the Indian community is not just about the amount, but the governance of that allocation, the integrity of that allocation. I think in the past many years, as you mentioned just now, there have been yearly allocation of 100 million to the Indian community through Mitra and so on. But whether or not those money have been well spent and have been successfully helped the Indian community, that is a big question mark. And why was it so? Was it because of lack of good governance, lack of integrity in terms of managing those funds? Whether or not people who are entrusted to manage those funds have not been able to manage it well. It's not just about allocation, but in terms of integrity of the people who are running the government, the people who are entrusted to run those jobs and to manage those resources for the Indian community.
Okay, but recently Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has formed a special cabinet committee on issues pertaining to Indians, especially to look into the socio-economic development. And Tan Sri Vigneswaran, the president of MIC, has recently said that he has talked and invited YB Kula and Prof. Ramasamy to join the steering committee. Do you welcome that?
I have no issue of that. First of all, I always believe in bipartisanship. I'm someone who are always open to cooperation across the divide, across the political divide. If they invite our leaders to be in the cabinet committee, definitely we welcome it. I have no objection to it. I will encourage our leaders to be part of that committee, as what we have always take as a position and participated in many other committees, such as the Select Committee, Parliamentary Select Committee, or any other committees that are formed by the government. But I think the issue is that what is the role of the committee? I think before we participate, we would like to know what are the terms and conditions, what are the terms of reference, what are the objectives. We do not want a committee just to set up, just being set up to look good. Nevertheless, I think as far as our leaders are concerned, if they are invited, I have no objection for them be part of the committee, and I encourage them to be part of the committee. But the committee must have a real objective and must have a real time frame and a real target to achieve. It's not just a committee being set up and then come the next election, nothing happened, and then the committee will be forgotten.
But prior to 2018, YB, there was a cabinet committee on Indian issues was formed by Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak. Actually, that committee was seen to be very effective in handling certain issues, to raise those issues in cabinet and so on. But when PH came to power, that was dismantled. I think what PM Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob is doing that actually is bringing back the cabinet committee. So when there is no bipartisan approach on certain issues, so whichever government come to power, they try to dismantle what the other government has done.
No, it's not a question of dismantle. I think it's not the right word to use to say it was dismantled, because every government comes in, then the cabinet was formed. I mean, the new cabinet was formed. Whatever committee, whatever cabinet structure being formed by the previous government was no longer there. So it's not a question of being dismantled. Even ministries can be reorganized and so forth. But when PH came to power, we had 4 Indian ministers in the cabinet. It's not a question of we do not want to set up any cabinet committee or any bipartisan committee. But if you look at the 22 months when we were in government, we basically did not get any cooperation from the opposition. We were facing with a very hostile opposition. They were very sour. They lost the government. They lost in the election. Barisan Nasional, for the first time being in the opposition bench, they were not really playing a constructive role as an opposition. They were trying to run us down. So I think at that particular point of time, during the 22 months, bipartisan was basically very hard to achieve. But I think during that PH rule, Indian issues were, of course, discussed very frequently in the cabinet. And as I mentioned, for the first time, there were 4 Indian ministers in the cabinet, which of course give more attention to the Indian issues. As I said, I understand the frustration that people say that even though you have 4 ministers, that you did not achieve much. I only wanted to say that, yes, I mean, the 22 months, probably a lot of people were disappointed in terms of looking at the results or rather the lack of the results. But the 22 months was too short. And we hope that we had a longer time frame to achieve what we wanted to achieve. But it's not that we have given up on those issues. What I'm trying to impress upon you is that we did not give up. We tried our best, and given another opportunity, I'm sure that we can do better.
Do you see in GE15 DAP going solo and make alliance post-election?
No, we are not taking a position to go solo. We are still part of Pakatan Harapan. We believe in coalition. We believe that in Malaysian politics, no single party can form the government. Every single party has their own strengths and weaknesses. We have to complement each other. We have to work with like-minded parties. Parties which share our common goals, we share our values and our objective. We have to work together. I mean, currently, Pakatan Harapan, as a bloc, as a coalition, we will go into the next election as a coalition. Whether or not there is a need for us to have cooperation with others post-election, that is something depending on the outcome of the next general election. But if there's a need for us to strike a cooperation with another coalition or with another party after the general election, that is something that we can discuss depending on the outcome of the election.
Is it inclusive of Bersatu?
As I said, right now, it does not arise. The issue of working with Bersatu or any other parties at this point of time does not arise. Okay? As I mentioned many times, we had a bad history with Bersatu. It is not easy to work with somebody which you fall out with. So this is not something that I think is can be achieved easily. But at this point of time, it does not arise. As I said, whatever cooperation post-election is something depending on the outcome of the election, whether there is any necessity to it. But going into next election, we have to strengthen Pakatan Harapan as a coalition. And we have to try our best to win the next election. If we can win the next election by our own strength, why not? There is no need to talk about to other coalition partners. If we can win that election through our own strength and we get the mandate from the people. The moment right now we talk about cooperation with parties such as Bersatu, we will probably lose our own supporters. That is a big risk that we are facing.
Maybe there are also calls by certain quarters that the government should accord due recognition to YB Lim Kitsang, who has served the nation in various political capacities. And what is your stand on that?
Well, I think Lim Kitsang is somebody or someone who will never ask for any recognition. That is him. Okay, he has dedicated his life for Malaysian politics. He has dedicated his life to achieve a dream, to achieve a better country for everyone. So he himself will not ask for any recognition. But of course, being the party leader, any recognition to him definitely will welcome. But we will not take a position to ask for it. Okay, I think he is somebody who should be given due recognition. Not by asking, but by I think by conviction, by recognition to his contribution. And I think that is up to the government of the day. But as far as the party is concerned, we will not be asking for any recognition for him. But he himself, I understand Lim Kitsang, his character. He's not somebody who will be hoping or asking for that. I think his conviction and his dedication is for the society and for the country. That is something that I think was his biggest achievement and his biggest satisfaction in life.
As a new SecGen of DAP, do you feel pressured to meet the legacy created by Lim Kitsang and Lim Guan?
Well, definitely they have left a big shoe for me to fill. What I appreciated is that over the years, our leaders in the past have built up a very strong foundation of the DAP. So my team and I inherited a very strong party from the past leaders. So in terms of our representation, both in Parliament and in the various state assemblies, and we are in a few state governments, and the party as a whole is strong in terms of our foundation, not in terms of our electoral support, but in terms of our organization, in terms of our party structure, in terms of our party culture, and in terms of our membership. I have inherited a very strong party. So that foundation is very strong. I'm thankful for that, for their contribution. So for me, it's of course to build upon this strength in order for the party to continue to grow, in order for the party to continue to give opportunities for the next generation of leaders. So the role of party leaders is to make sure that we have continuity, we have renewal, and we will continue to grow and continue to have more younger leaders in the future, so that the struggle of the party can be continued for a long time to come. So DAP had been in Malaysian politics for more than 50 years. So we are looking forward for more achievement. And what defines the party is that we must be able to deliver for the people. And we hope that through our struggles, we can bring more positive changes to the society and to the community. And I know that the Indian community have very high hope for the DAP. They have given their strong support to the party since 2008. That enabled us to be the government in Penang, to be government in Selangor, and since 2018 to be state government in Negeri Sembilan, and also the federal government. Even though that we lost the federal government after Sheraton moved, but we still maintain 3 state governments. So these three state governments must be our showcase to Malaysians and to the Indian community in particular, that we can do better than the previous government. And Penang, Selangor and Negeri Sembilan, to a certain extent, I am very confident that we can show our results. Even though that a lot of people say that the 22 months of the PH federal government was a disappointment. But as I said, there are certain reasons to that. One of it because we were denied the full term. But the other side of it is that please also assess our result and our achievement in Penang, in Selangor, in Negeri Sembilan. What are the things that we have done differently in terms of managing the state, in terms of more transparency, in terms of how we handle the community issues, such as for the Indian community, how we handle the Tamil school issues, how we handle temple issues, how we handle religious bodies, and so forth. Penang, Selangor, and Negeri Sembilan are the only states in the country where we have a non-Muslim affairs portfolio, where there is a specific ESCO looking or taking care of those issues at the state level. And in the Selangor, for example, in Negeri Sembilan, for example, we have been able to solve many issues affecting the Indian community as far as places of worship is concerned. In Negeri Sembilan, I mean my state, I know for in the past 4 years, I have assigned Arul Kumar, an Indian ESCO member, to take charge of the non-Muslim affairs portfolio. And he has been able to solve many of those issues, relocating of temples, gazetting land for Hindu temples and so forth. And therefore, in the past few years, you have not heard of any issues of those temple being forced out or evicted. Any issues facing the places of worship have to be handled carefully, have to be handled with full of respect. And any issues which was regarding the land issue have to be handled through professionally, through a better mechanism. And with an EXCO being in charge of that portfolio, we have been able to handle those issues in a better way. So unlike those days before 2008, where you have many those Hindu temples were evicted, and it caused a lot of controversies and caused a lot of issues on the ground. I think we have been able to change that for better. We hope that this is the small achievement that the Indian community can assess and can give some credit to our state governments. And we hope that we can do more, we can do better in terms of education, in terms of job opportunities, in terms of economy for the Indian community, can achieve more in the years to come.
Okay, OB, thank you for your time being with us today, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your interview. I hope that we have more opportunities to interact.
Sure.
As I mentioned many times, that my role as a SecGen is also to understand the various communities' issues even further. So let's be assured that DAP leaders, regardless of our background, regardless of our race, we will be giving more attention to the Indian community.
Thank you, OB.
Thank you. Vanakkam.
Thank you. Vanakkam.